7 plus 3 is 10, then 7 is minus $3. It's $4.70. What does it mean? Sower.
It's another busy week for us as we begin to wrap up our school year. Join me for another day in the life. With all the beautiful spring days we've been having, things are starting to wind down in our homeschool and we are wrapping things up. I'm going to be talking in this video a little bit about year-round homeschooling versus the traditional school year and why we've chosen to do things the way we do. My kids have been having so much fun with these chicks. They are maybe 6 weeks old. We got them back at the end of March and they are still in the brooder, but we're going to be moving them out to the grass for good in the next day or two. And so the kids have been bringing them out every day and just putting them on grass, getting them used to being outside and having so much fun with them. If this is your first time on my channel, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sherry. I'm a homeschooling mom to 10 kids ages 19 down to 15 months. I love blogging over at ourlifehomeschooling.com where you can find lots of articles that are encouraging you about homeschooling and also book lists that you can refer to, just tons of great stuff over there. And I love coming on here as well, encouraging you each week in homeschooling. Back in the kitchen, this is a brand new day and I'm getting breakfast ready for my kiddos. I'm making some potatoes with eggs. Normally I make these in a 9x13 and put butter over them, pop them in the oven, but my friend recently told me how she makes hers in her cast iron skillet, so I just thought I'd try something a little different today. It's just me and Benjamin this morning. He's been getting up at around 7 o'clock, which is nice that he's not getting up super early, but my other kids aren't down yet. Our school year is beginning to wind down. We follow the traditional calendar for our school year, but I want to talk a little bit about that. On paper, so we live in Pennsylvania and we have to turn in a couple of things. One of them is to show record that we had 180 days of school. So on paper, we homeschool from August through May. And that is when we do the majority of our book work. But I hold a day really loosely. So when I was a newer homeschool mom, I was really careful about this. Sometimes I might look at a day where we had done a little bit of school, but just thought, I don't know if this is enough, if I can count it as a whole day. And so maybe I wouldn't. But I hold it so much more loosely now because I've realized that our lifestyle is such that if I were to follow my kids around and just personally log what each of them does all day, every day, 365 days a year, most of the days of the year we could actually count as a school day. So while on paper it looks like we are doing school from August through May, and that is when we do a lot of our book work, in reality, once we close the books and turn in everything to the state, we're just pivoting and we're doing a different type of learning. No, we may not be doing math from our textbooks, but our kids go shopping with us. They do online shopping. We're working in the garden. We're measuring things, just all kinds of things, cooking that involve math. We may not be doing our writing curriculum, but we are writing letters. And I would say they probably do different assignments, whether writing in a journal or whatever, at least 3 or 4 days a week, if not every day, some of them every day. And we're reading every day. We read the Bible as part of our breakfast and again in the evening for dinner. I read a chapter book to the kids, usually at least once in the day I'll read to them. So this is just a part of our lifestyle. Now I'm making some sourdough bread here, and this doesn't look as fancy as maybe some of the sourdough bread you see elsewhere because I like to use the whole grain. I just want to put a caveat out there that you don't have to make sourdough to be a good homeschooler. This is something I do for my health. I like to have bread that's been made from scratch, that's long fermented. I like to use the whole grain to get all of that nutrition. But I am a firm believer that there should be no stereotypes in homeschooling. Any parent can homeschool their kids. It doesn't have to look a certain way, be a certain way. And I think there's just some moms that need to hear that. Every family is unique, and that's what makes it beautiful. I want to talk a little bit about our morning time notebook. We do morning time right after breakfast, and we're finishing this up. So you can get my Simple Morning Time notebook on the blog. We've done mostly everything in it for the year. The last thing we're wrapping up is we're doing our stories from Shakespeare. We're reading King Lear. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And finishing up our Bible memory. Other than that, we've pretty much done everything. We finished our hymns for the year. We did our 2 composers, our 2 artists, Manet and George Seurat. We did the presidents. It's just really nice to have something visible that you can just look at.
The 16th president, his Emancipation Proclamation.
I read 2 Shakespeare stories a year, and I do them in a progression. First, I read the play from Beautiful Tales from Shakespeare, and this is just a little bit easier version. It's not the actual play, it's the story, it gives the plot. And then secondly, I read in the book I have right here, Tales from Shakespeare by Charles and Mary Lamb. And this is a little bit harder, but once they already know the story, and I read this second time from this harder book, it just kind of fills in a little bit more details. Now, when my kids were younger, I really had to take this a lot more slowly, and some of them, they just had to be older. But I have a lot of older kids, and so I feel like the older your older kids are, you're able to do more of this than you could when they were all little.
And they sullenly told her not to prescribe to them, so they knew their duty. But CH says, like chin. U of A, E says its name.
Beach. Top was green and yellow. In our family, is it O-U-R or?
In R, O-U-R.
We were also singing our Veritas Press history song. We've done all 5 years 2 times. So the kids know all these, and it kind of trickles down to the younger ones, which is nice. Benjamin found this boot, and it entertained him for like a half an hour, putting this boot on and walking around with it. It was really funny. Back to Veritas. We took a break this year from Veritas, and we just have been reviewing the songs that we've always done, and instead I've been reading something else for history, but we plan to pick back up with self-paced history lessons from Veritas next year. It's been something that's always been really nice to outsource, and I also just feel like they do such a great job. My kids really love it. Another thing that's kept us really busy this week is that my kids all finished their last day of co-op this year. So our family goes to a co-op, and then our high school kids go to a second co-op, which is a drop-off co-op. And both of these ended this week, and there were just a lot of things that were due. So James had a toothpick bridge he was finishing, as well as a Lego diorama for his project on Daniel Boone. My older kids, Jenna and Luke, they were working on a graphic design poster. Afton did a poster on George Mueller from a biography she did. Brinley, she was pretty much done. She took a sewing class at co-op and her stuff was already done. But we were just wrapping up a lot of these things. And then my older kids for their high school co-op had some final tests that they had to study for and just some final things to turn in. So that was something that kind of took up a lot of our time this week. A friend of mine and I were talking about one thing that we just love about homeschooling and being part of a co-op is that our kids have opportunities to be involved in our spring program in making different projects like this and having these kinds of things available to them, but we love that it's only once a year because it's so much work to help them get all these projects done. So I love that they have this, and it's fun for them to have that part of their education, but it's nice that it's just not all the time. I'm making chicken quesadillas today for my kids. This is something we kind of have a lot. We like to make them pretty meaty, lots of cheese, lots of chicken, and we just have veggies, and it's a really fast meal, so I like that. I want to take a break in this video to tell you about the e-course, How to Take the Stress Out of Homeschooling. If you're a homeschool mom, you probably question yourself, am I doing enough? Have I picked the right curriculum? Are my kids going to turn out okay? What about college? What about high school? All this is a weight that we feel. As one homeschool writer put it, she felt like school was the one place she could send her kids where everything that went wrong wasn't her fault. Maybe you can relate. There is an easier way that takes the burden off of you as the homeschool mom and also is such an effective way of teaching kids. And you'll learn all about that in the course, How to Take the Stress Out of Homeschooling. This course was created by Kelly Crawford from Generation Cedar. She's a mom of 11 with 23 years of homeschooling experience. She's been blogging at Generation Cedar since 2007. Taking this course with Kelly is like sitting down beside an experienced homeschool mom who can just lay out for you what you should focus on, what to avoid, what really matters. If you're a new homeschool mom, this is going to be like putting you 5 years ahead of your time. If you're a veteran homeschool mom, I took this course. I've been homeschooling for 14 years. I still learned new things, and I also, more importantly, was just encouraged, because sometimes when you're in the day-to-day, when you're in the thick of things, you can sometimes forget the things that you already know. You just need to be reminded of them. So do yourself a favor and check out the course. I'm going to leave the link below. Back to the change that happens this time of the year when we close our textbooks, put them aside, and pivot to a different type of learning. We are pretty busy in the summer with our garden, with putting up food, with the kids are in camps, a lot of different things. Let me tell you quickly, this is a praying mantis. The girls found these on a branch. It's their egg sac, and I just feel like you always have stuff like this around your house when you are homeschooling, because the kids find things, they put them in these jars, and they're watching for them to hatch. But our learning this time of year, as we change seasons, just becomes a lot more hands-on. Our strawberries are done in May, so we're all out there picking those, bringing them in. We make strawberry jam for our whole family, and then next we are planting. We grow beans, beets, tomatoes, cucumbers, potatoes, corn, and all of these things we harvest and preserve, and the kids are part of all of it. So that's a lot of hands-on learning that's happening. And I also just feel like when they have free time, they do things like pursuing a business idea, or our son started a tree house last year. He wants to finish that this year. So we're back inside. I'm reading to the kids. You can see this room looks messy, but it's messy with projects that our kids are all working on. This is James's diorama for his Daniel Boone project he's trying to put together. In our windows are plants that we planted. These are our seedlings that will go in our garden. They're coming along nicely. Hopefully they'll be ready in a couple weeks. I'm just reading to the kids our history lesson and then the chapter book we're working on. Here's a puzzle William put together. He just surprised me so much. He's only 5 years old, and this puzzle is a 500-piece puzzle. He worked at it for 10 days, and I wasn't even really paying attention to him. I just saw him over at the homeschool table working on it. And finally one night I was putting him to bed, and he said, I only have a couple more pieces. I want to finish my puzzle. And I went over, and I was so amazed that he had finished this 500-piece puzzle. So I feel like when you encourage an atmosphere of learning in your home, You may be ending your book work, but the free time that your kids get when their free time opens up, they just get all the more inspired and creative, and they want to try different things and learn new things. And I really also just like the seasonal changes of homeschooling. About this time of year, I am ready to stop with our regular routine and just do something different. And I welcome the summer. I love that the kids are going to camps, we get to swim more. But also, once it gets around August and we're getting to where a lot of our harvest is getting in, by that time, I'm getting ready for routine as well. So I like the changes. Our kids were able to finish all their projects for the spring program, and I love that our co-op does this every year. It's a great way to display the kids' work. There you can see this is the sewing class that I helped teach this year. These are some of the projects they made. This is a great way for the kids to have something they can be proud of at the end of the year. We had some performances. My daughter did a dance, a folk dance with some of her kids in her class and played the recorder. There was a sign language performance, just lots of different things. And of course, they have their artwork everywhere. We are so thankful to be part of a great community of homeschoolers. Thanks for following along with us this week. I do one video a week on homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms.